Imagine a gloomy night where the wind whistled through the dry bushes and the stars were covered by the dense clouds of a threatening sky. The smell of wet earth announced something imminent, but something even more terrible was about to happen. It was a time of war, a time when the people of Israel cried out to God in despair, oppressed by the cruel yoke of Jabin, king of Canaan. Their commander, Sisera, was a name that inspired fear and devastation, with his 900 iron chariots crushing anyone who dared resist. But in the darkness of that period, God was raising up unlikely people to fulfill his purpose. And among them, a woman whose name would echo through the centuries as a symbol of obedience and obedience. Jael, a seemingly ordinary woman, lived in the shadow of events, but destiny would place her at the center of history. Before that, however, the narrative takes us to Deborah, the prophetess and judge of Israel. She was a woman of wisdom and strength, raised by God to lead the people in times of chaos. In Judges 4, Deborah summons Barak, a military leader, and gives him the word of the Lord. Did not the Lord, the God of Israel, command, saying, "Go and draw people to Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men from the children of Naphtali, and from the children of Zebulun. And I drew you to the river of Kishon, Sisera, captain of the army of Jabin, with his chariots and with his great multitude, and I will deliver him into your hand." But Barak hesitates. He only agrees to go if Deborah comes with him. Deborah agrees, but with a warning: the glory of victory will not be his. God will deliver Sisera into the hands of a woman. This prophecy, mysterious and unexpected, planted a seed in the course of history. Who would this woman be? The answer was far from the front lines, far from battle strategies. Jael was the wife of Heber the Kenite, and her tent was located in a strategic area. Despite the alliance between her family and Jabin, Jael did not share the same heart. The Kenites were descendants of Hobab, Moses' father-in-law, and knew the God of Israel. And although her political stance was neutral, Jael carried a truth that would make her defy all expectations. On the morning of the battle, the atmosphere was tense. The sound of war drums echoed in the distance as Barak led his men to Mount Tabor. From there, they watched Sisera's vast army approaching, the iron chariots gleaming in the sun. In human eyes, it was a suicide mission, but God had other plans. The Kishon Brook, which seemed harmless, became the scene of a miracle. When Sisera launched his attack, God supernaturally intervened. Torrential rain began to fall, turning the solid ground into mud. Sisera's iron chariots were trapped, unable to move, while Barak's army advanced with ferocity. Sisera, seeing his imminent defeat, abandoned his chariot and fled on foot, leaving his army behind in despair. He ran, desperate, seeking refuge. And that's how Sisera arrived at Jael's tent. Jael saw him from afar, dirty, tired, and with the look of a defeated man. He wasn't just an enemy in general. He was the symbol of the oppression that terrorized his people. But Jael declared no hostility. Wisely and calmly, she went out to meet him and said, "Come in, my lord, come in here. Fear not." Judges 4:18. Sisera entered exhausted and vulnerable. Jael offered him shelter and, in a calculated gesture, brought him milk instead of water, further inducing his fatigue. He lay down, and Jael covered him with a cloak while he begged, "Stand at the door of the tent, and if anyone comes and asks, 'Is there a man here?' you will say no." But Jael knew that this moment was a divine calling. God had delivered the enemy into her hands. With a steady heart, she picked up a tent peg and a hammer. As Sisera slept soundly, she acted with determination. Every movement was guided by trust in God, and with a single blow, she drove the stake into Sisera's temple, killing him instantly. Deborah's prophecy was fulfilled. The feared commander had been defeated, not by an army, but by a woman whose obedience to God changed the course of history. The news of Sisera's death quickly spread around the surrounding area. Jael, an unknown woman from a small tribe, became the center of a divine upheaval. The scene in the tent was full of symbolism. An arrogant commander, confident in his military strength, fallen at the hands of a woman armed only with household tools. As Jael remains next to Sisera's body, a mixture of sensations fills the air. It was not just collapse or victory, but the visible manifestation that God heard the cry of his people. Soon Barak arrived at the tent, pursuing the enemy who escaped his reach. Jael met him at the entrance and announced calmly and firmly, "Come, and I will show you the man you seek." Judges 4:22. Inside the tent, Barak saw Sisera's body lying on the ground, with the stake stuck in his head. He was silent for a moment, absorbing the impact of that act. Deborah's prophecy was fulfilled in a surprising and powerful way. With Sisera's death, Jabin's army was completely dismantled. The people of Israel, once oppressed and humiliated, began to rise again. Jael's name became synonymous with courage and obedience, being exalted in the song of Deborah and Barak, a song of praise and celebration of divine intervention. In the song recorded in Judges 5, Deborah sings, "Blessed be among women Jael, wife of Heber the Kenite. Blessed be among the women in the tents." He asked for water, gave him milk. In a dish of nobles, he offered him butter. To the stake he extended his hand, and to the hammer, the right hand of the workers. And with the hammer he struck Sisera, struck him on the head, pierced him, and pierced his temples. Judges 5:24. This exaltation shows that the victory was not just military, but deeply spiritual. The people saw in Jael's action the fulfillment of God's will. She became an example of someone who, even in her simplicity, was used for something great. But why Jael? Why did God choose a seemingly powerless woman to accomplish such a feat? The answer is one of divine logic, which often subverts human expectations. When we think about Jael's tent, we can reflect on what it means to make room for God to act in our lives. Like Jael, we need to be ready to say yes to the divine call, even when that call leads us to difficult or unexpected decisions. In Deborah's song, there is a powerful contrast between Jael and other passive figures. While Jael acted courageously, other conflict resolutions, such as the tribes of Israel hesitating to join the battle, show a contrast. It challenges us to consider where we are in the spiritual battle. Are we satisfied with boldness or hiding in neutrality? While Sisera's body remains in Jael's tent, the events surrounding it begin to change the fate of the entire region. The news of the fearsome commander's defeat quickly spread among Jabin's remaining troops, and terror gripped the enemy army. Without their leader, and with the destruction of the iron chariots that once dominated the battlefield, Jabin's military force was reduced to nothing more than disorderly fugitives. The Israelites, encouraged by the miraculous victory at the Kishon River and the death of Sisera, pursued the surviving soldiers with determination. Every man in Canaan who bore the mark of oppression was defeated. The war did not end that day, but a crucial victory was a devastating blow to Jabin and his supremacy. Barak, after witnessing Sisera's body, returned to the battlefield to consolidate the victory. The expression on his face as he left Jael's tent was one of respect and admiration. He did not expect the fulfillment of the prophecy to come from such an unexpected hand, but he knew that it was a confirmation that God was in control of all events. As he returned to his troops, Barak found his men celebrating, many still in disbelief at the outcome of the battle. Sisera's iron chariots, once considered invincible, were now stuck in the mud, symbols of the Canaanites' shattered strength. The sight of defeated bodies and abandoned weapons reinforced the impact of victory. With the death of Sisera and the destruction of his army, Jabin, king of Canaan, was left vulnerable. His military strength had been annihilated, and his allies were now hesitant to support him. Jael's name began to be considered among the Israelites as a central point in the turning point of that war. Over the next few months, Israel continued to pressure Jabin, attacking his cities and weakening his defenses. Ultimately, the king was defeated, and the people of Israel enjoyed peace for 40 years. Although Jael did not march with armies or brandish a sword on the battlefield, her act of courage in the trend forever changed the history of Israel. His name was sung among the people, and his figure became a symbol of boldness and obedience in times of crisis. The final scene in which Jael stood out was engraved in everyone's memory: an ordinary woman in a lonely tent, defeating the greatest symbol of oppression of her time with simple tools, but with unshakable determination. The song of Deborah and Barak echoed throughout Israel. It was a vibrant, grace-filled celebration of God, but also a narrative that preserved the details of that extraordinary victory. Each verse carried the weight of a living memory: Jael's courage, Sisera's escape, divine intervention at the Kishon River, and the transformation of a once-dominated people into a victorious army. In that song, Jael was exalted as a hero, a woman who defied expectations and played a decisive role in fulfilling God's purpose. Her name was placed alongside Deborah, showing that the strength of women in Israel's history was both an inspiration and evidence that God works through whomever he chooses, regardless of status or position. After Jabin's defeat, the people of Israel entered a period of peace that lasted for 40 years. This time was marked by the observation and rebirth of an identity as a nation that serves the living God. The years of oppression and suffering were overcome, and the lessons of peaceful battle a reminder of divine sovereignty. Jael returned to her ordinary life, but her story continues to be told from generation to generation. In every corner of Israel, people talked about the woman in the tent who changed the destiny of a nation with a hammer and a stake. Jael's story teaches us that God does not choose the capable, but empowers the chosen. In several passages of the Bible, we see God using the unlikely to carry out his plans. Just as David defeated Goliath with a stone, Jael defeated Sisera with a stake and a hammer. This event is a reminder that no matter how small or insignificant our position may seem, God can use us in powerful ways when we are willing to obey. The story of Jael and Sisera is a tale of courage and purpose. It's a powerful reminder that acts of determination and faith can completely transform the course of history. Jael was neither a warrior nor a military leader, but at that moment she was the right person, in the right place, to fulfill a plan much greater than she could have imagined. And just like Jael, we are also called at different moments in life to make choices that require courage. May this story inspire us to face our challenges with determination and to trust that, in our hands, God can use even the simplest tools to bring great victories. If you were moved by the story of Jael and Sisera and want to continue learning about how God uses ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary feats, subscribe to the channel, activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, and share this message with someone who needs help. Inspiration today. Let's explore more incredible stories from the Bible together.